The air is marked. The thermals are already marked by the other pilots, so you can fly faster just following them.
에바는 비행전 점검을 하고 GPS의 경로 기록을 설정했다.
As we realized we have a southerly winds, we knew we have to fly north between those clouds. But they were that far that at the moment at the takeoff, it was not really looking like a big danger.
You could see the clouds forming and popping up all over the places, that there was more activity to the north, but there was no real thunderstorm or pre-thunderstorm seen at that time.
하지만 에바의 친구인 오스트리아 패러글라이더 게랄드 아메세다는 이미 뇌우를 염려하고 있었다.
When I first arrived at Mount Bora and I saw these clouds, I was sure inside that the day will be not good. I was sure about the humidity. I was sure about the possibility of thunderstorms inside of me. I was sure. But this is the problem with competitions. I felt a little pressure because I was in a competition, and you go flying.
갑작스러운 폭풍은 노련한 패러글라이더들에게 가장 큰 위협이며 통제할 수 없는 요소다. 일단 이륙을 하면 지상 요원들이 선수들과 계속 무전 연락을 취하며 기상을 관측하고 착륙 지점까지 선수들을 따라간다.
The first time I radio Stefan was when I was at the cloud base.
Hier ist Eva für Stefan. Ich bin 20 Kilometer vom Startplatz, Höhe über 2000 Meter und Flugrichtung Nord. Alles klar bei mir.
The first part of the flight was actually easy. I followed the ridge north, and I think about 20 km, then the ridge stops and the flatlands begins.
At the time when people were launching and flying, and for the first hour or two of their flight, they thought it was a relatively standard cross-country day, very unremarkable in every respect. The group split up into two, so Eva was actually at the rear end of the lead group, so the front runners in her group were already through the section of clouds before the clouds started to get really big and strong above their heads.
게럴드는 당시 선두 그룹 후미에서 에바와 나란히 날고 있었다.
I knew about the problem with the clouds, but in a race we tried to find good thermals. So on this day, our strategy was for our team to go between these clouds and to fly north as long as possible.
우측으로 50m 떨어진 곳에는 허중틴이라는 42살의 중국인 선수가 있었다.
Zongpin had been flying since the 90s, and he was one of their senior pilots in the team, so the rest of the younger members of the team respected him. He was up there with the top pilots in the world, so he was right mixing it with them at that exact stage.
몇몇 조종사들은 폭풍이 몰려오고 있는 구역을 무사히 지나갔고 맑은 하늘을 날고 있던 에바와 게랄드, 종핀의 위에는 작은 구름이 있었다.
It was clear that the lead group that Eva was in would be coming quite close to those larger clouds, and they'd be running a fine gauntlet between two of the larger cells.
The clouds were really black and big, and I started to get worried about it. I started to get concerned.
The two big clouds were growing really fast. We could see that it's getting very dark. So we knew we are playing with the fire now. But in front of us, the sky was looking really nice with nice cumulus clouds. Everybody was thinking, okay, we are fast enough to fly away from this cloud.
Being an XC Open, the pilots get to make their own decisions once they start flying. How you predict the weather to be is your own personal safety, and it can be the difference between life and death sometimes. So from the viewpoint of the pilots who were in the rear group, it was clear that up ahead there was a solid line of cloud developing. Most of the rear group elected to land at that stage.
Nach 50, 60 Kilometern wurde es mir einfach viel zu heiß in der Luft. Also meine Schwelle war erreicht, wo ich einfach dachte, jetzt wird es zu gefährlich. Und dann funkte ich Stefan an und sagte, mir wird es jetzt zu gefährlich, ich gehe jetzt runter. Und in dem Augenblick habe ich dann gar nicht mehr realisiert, wo Eva dann auch war. Aber kurz vorher war sie noch 1 Kilometer vor mir.
수십 명의 선수들이 착륙하기 시작하면서 폭풍에 대한 공포는 현실로 다가왔다.
The clouds were forming into very high clouds and it started to rain. We knew there's a big difference between thunderstorms in mountain terrains and in flatlands, but actually at that time it was we underestimated it, of course.
We could see a very tall, towering cumulonimbus cloud just reaching its mature phase where it was starting to develop very, very quickly, and some rain was just starting to appear on one corner of it.
I had a cloud in front of me. I knew I cannot pass below the cloud, otherwise I get sucked into the cloud with the thermal, so I decided to fly around.
마닐라 지역의 평지에서는 보통 폭풍우가 몇 시간에 걸쳐 천천히 발달하는데 그날은 구름이 급속도로 커지며 정난운이 길게 늘어섰다. 구름들이 서로 결합하면 거센 뇌우가 발생할 상황이었다. 선수들이 피해가려던 작은 구름이 갑자기 더 큰 구름으로 흡수되며 너비가 20km에 달하는 거대한 폭풍우 구름이 형성됐다.
Eva, being at the back end of the lead group, would have seen the leaders flying away from her, and she was desperately trying to catch them, of course, to stay in contention. She would have seen a little bit of blue still ahead, but what she wouldn't have seen was how tall the clouds were and how dark and menacing they looked at that point. Because from where we were behind, we could see this tall towering stuff, and once you're underneath it, you can't quite tell. She wasn't alone, of course. She was with a few other very competitive pilots.
In paragliding competitions, you are focused on winning, you push the limits, you just forget your safety and your life. It's kind of adrenaline and emotions, you just focus.
For me, it was a race against time. I saw 2 Swiss pilots in front of me, I think about 500 meters. They flew between the clouds really fast. Made it. They are flying out. And I remember that I tried the same. We were not fast enough. The 2 clouds started to growing up to 1 cloud. It was like the cloud catched me and there was no chance to get out of it.
The clouds came together to form one